Well, good morning. After a lot of farting around with passwords and codes and things, here we are a little late. Sorry about that. But it's time to sack all these people that sit in basements, picking up huge salaries, fiddling around to make it more and more and more difficult for us to use the things that people keep on urging us to use. It is a nonsense and it is bad business practice. Sack them, get rid of them, and let's go back to something that is sensible. For years, I've been able to operate social media, but now they've tampered with it so much, and they insist upon having 65 different ways of protecting your account. It's absolute bloody rubbish. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. What a way to start off again. There we got more passwords and logins and coming through to our ears. Anyway, a new era, because, of course, yesterday, Liz Truss became the Prime Minister-elect. She flies to Balmoral today, along with Boris. Boris will offer his resignation to the Queen. If she's got any sense at all and any power, she would say, no, Boris, I'm not accepting it. But there we are. Let's get behind Liz Truss now. She's been elected. That's it. She's our Prime Minister. We must give her every chance. But I'm afraid that she and Rishi Sunak did not fill me with confidence throughout their debates and their campaigns. What can she do? Well, let's see, because she's promised to hit the ground running. She comes back from Balmoral today with the keys to number 10. And tomorrow, she starts work. And tomorrow, she has a Prime Minister's question time. She has to face the opposition leader, Sir Keir Starmer, with all his questions about what she's been promising. We'll see how she stands up to it. That will be the first test. But here he is, dear old Boris, unfortunately now out of power. But watch this space. This guy does not give up. He is tenacious. Tenacious in every way. He'll be back. You watch. He'll be back. Colourful, not trustworthy in some ways, can't keep his pecker inside his zip, but nonetheless, with all those faults, he has been something of a giant in very difficult times. He's had to steer us through Brexit. He then had to face a cost of living crisis, COVID, inflation, a war which is ongoing. And to my mind, one way or another, he didn't do a bad job. He didn't create most of these things. They were pushed onto his plate. But anyway, this is the lady who is now in charge, who has made all sorts of promises, not least of which is bring the cost of living down by capping or freezing energy costs. Let's see if she can do that. The trouble with our political system is the politicians are in the hands of the executive, the people who never go near a ballot box, who grab power through the system, and they quite often can thwart the best intentions of politicians. Yes, Minister. Yes, Minister. Anyway, that's where we're at. today. And why? Oh, I know. That's it. There we are. I'm here in the White Hart Hotel. This is Mirador Television. The time is 8:41. The temperature is going to reach about 20 degrees, quite a bit chillier than lately. We can expect some pretty violent thunderstorms this afternoon. And excuse me while I take a sip of coffee. Prepared by the lovely Shannon this morning in the White Hart Hotel. This is the White Hart Hotel that you can see behind me, the rafters of which have covered many a famous head, none more so than Tom Paine, the architect of, first of all, in some ways, the House of Commons, but secondly, the creation of the United States. Name not familiar? No, it's funny. When people have actually besmirched, as we see it, the history of this country, we don't push them very much, do we? We're much more interested in losers. But there we go. What was I saying when I so rudely interrupted myself? Yes, as Liz Truss will take over the reins of power, and we'll see the Queen, and let's see what some of the newspapers are saying today. And the Times, straight to business. Liz Truss wins the Tory leadership contest to become the UK's next Prime Minister. Straight to business, says the Times, as it reports that Miss Truss is expected to freeze energy bills for every household in one of her first acts in the new job. Well, she will be moving in later today or first thing tomorrow. The Daily Mail. I have to say that it is cometh the hour, cometh the woman. I'm not so sure that it's a great headline, but it also says female prime ministers. It's the Tories 3, Labour 0. No, it does show that a lot of shouting doesn't necessarily achieve the objectives which some of these parties say that they want. But it says no prime minister since Maggie Thatcher has faced a tougher in-tray than Liz Truss. Now she plans a shock and awe strategy on energy bills, tax, and the NHS to stamp her mark on Britain. That is more or less how she is seen in the Daily Mail. The Guardian, Truss wins, but can she avert the looming crisis? Well, what crises have we got? Well, we've got a number of crises, have we not? We've got, not least of which is, don't forget, we've got war. This is still having a devastating effect on our economy and our way of life. And it's a war that doesn't seem to be going away. It's attack and counterattack. Perhaps one of the more frightening things is that it said that Premier Putin is now threatening to take over places like Moldova and so on. And that brings us into more and more direct confrontation, particularly with NATO countries. Where this war is going to take us, heaven only knows. But Liz Truss now is our leader. She is the one that has to present our point of view, give our support. So far, Boris has been unequivocal. and has won the praise of the Ukrainian leadership for our support. She is going to have to face the cost of living, which is zooming, roaring almost out of control. Brexit still creates problems, and the people in Brussels aren't above stirring it up. It has not gone away as an issue. So she has a fair number of things. On top of that, we've got energy costs, got inflation, we've got all sorts of things. So yes, it is not something that we would wish on anybody. The Guardian can she avert the looming crisis? The Metro, Liz, I will deliver. The Metro says a beaming Miss Truss will meet the Queen at Balmoral today to officially take office, promising to deliver. Well, if she can live to that promise, then she will be my lady. I plan to give her every support that we can, because that is the right and proper thing to do for our leader. But already those useless bloody tits that we've got in the House of Commons are plotting against her, so it's reported. When are they going to ever learn that we don't want to pay their money? By all means, plot, but have the courage of your convictions and quit, so we know where you stand, and then plot from outside the House of Commons. Do not spend our money, waste our money on plotting and creating problems for the leader, which indeed then creates problems for the country. And it is us who do not have the privilege of sponsored meals, sponsored bars, subsidized costs, travel costs, expenses that make the mouth drool. We do not have those things. So if that's what you want for us, go and tell your constituency parties that you're quitting. You're standing down, but that you will run in any by-election on the basis and on being honest and saying we plot against Liz Truss. That's what we want from you. Don't hold our breath. You really are not fit for purpose. You're not fit for office. Most of you are there because of ratios, not because you've demonstrated in any way that you are fit for office, that you know what to do, that you're competent in the post. You are not. Out of 650, I wouldn't give you tuppence for more than about 25. And even then, that's a high estimate. The Daily Express put faith in trust to deliver for Britain. Okay. The Daily Express declares, it says, the decisive win over Rishi Sunak makes her the third female Conservative to lead the UK. Well, that doesn't say much, does it? And actually, the Express is traditionally a supporter of the government. So you can expect the Express to support Liz Truss. And so they should. Here's trouble coming in.
Don't be so ungracious. I'm about to tell you something very funny. Will the only good thing that's on the news this morning is that will Boris Johnson's place in history be secure? Yes, because he will write it.
I don't know whether you heard that from Stuart, who has just come storming through the door. Is that the question was asked this morning is, will Boris Johnson's place in history be secure? To which the answer is yes, of course, because he will write it. There he is. I think moments ago, half an hour ago, it's 8:51 now, an hour ago, he stepped through the door of number 10 for the last time, or at least for the last time in this series of premierships.
It's going to be quite good when he meets the Queen and her immobility. Will he go pushing her chair around or something?
Oh, he's in a mood this morning where he's loaded to bear, aren't you? Yeah, come on, sit down, and give us your wisdom.
No, I won't be staying long, but I just want to put you right on a couple of things.
Oh, right, okay, right.
You see this here, right? Trust in 100 billion energy plan. But this is unbelievable. 100 billion she's going to give to the companies, right? Who are totally going to give it, not give it on to the poor people, right?
Right.
It's like, do you remember the?
Come on, let's see you, for God's sake. Stop nattering off camera.
Well, that's not because you're bloody ranting on all the time.
Right. There you go. Right. Now.
No, turn it down. You're making me deaf. You know you're responsible for my lack of balance.
Yes, I know.
You've done my period thing.
He fell over the other day, and everybody thought he was drunk, and he wasn't that at all. I hadn't had a drink. It's his little brain had been so active during the day that it went turning around. Now listen, those are the people you're talking to, not me. Face the camera. Go on.
Well, I don't think I want to talk to you. Do you remember, given your bloody short memory, the subprime scandal in America?
Yes, indeed.
What happened there? All the mortgage companies were given huge amounts of money.
To unsustainable mortgages.
For unsustainable mortgages.
Yeah.
This is what is going to happen here.
Right.
They're given the money. Now, I've told you, I'm breathless, about the companies are very, very bordering on corruption, because as the gas price goes up, they get more money and they make profits, despite what they might say, and they pay themselves incredible salaries, like 2 million, 1 million, 3 million, 6 million. It's outrageous.
And we're paying for it.
And the consumer, the person we're supposed to be supporting, are paying for it.
Yeah. Now, for those people who either have never tuned into Mirador before, or those people who dip in and out, Stuart Dolby is a mainstay of Mirador television, a former Financial Times journalist, a man who covered the Vietnam War, not from a seat in London, but from the jungles itself. And is an energy expert. And on this station, he has called what's going to happen correctly so many times and well in advance that it is well worthwhile listening to what he has to say. So what he's doing now, he is commenting upon the fact that the experts say, and this is in the Financial Times, that the package of help, assistance in the energy crisis is going to reach £100 billion. And Stuart is saying, hey, hang on, where is this £100 billion going? So let's start from there, Stuart. Where is it going?
Well, this will be going to the energy companies. Now, as I've said many, many times, Carl, the energy companies have formed themselves over the years since Thatcher privatized the energy companies into cartels, where, like the banks, they follow that leader type system. So if, let's say British Gas charges this, Empower will follow on, and so forth and so on. And they make great deal of profit, although they say they don't make any profit. And it's all at the cost of the consumer. They make the profit, and then they put the consumer's tariff up. It's absolutely scandalous.
Yeah. So, in other words, this is a very typical political ploy. So, what you do is you allocate the money, but then you move it around, and it doesn't really get to do what you say it's going to do.
Well, it's just the Tory party is capitalist, isn't it? But here we're talking about real excesses of capitalism. That people are actually, feathering their own nest while the poor people are in fuel poverty. They can't afford to pay this.
Yeah.
And now, so this is really quite interesting, because the energy cap has been set for twice a year, 1st of October and the 1st of April, isn't it? What happened?
Right.
And then and suddenly they said we're going to make it quarterly. this is a right old stroke, and they haven't explained why they're making it quarterly. But what it means is that every quarter, the energy cap bills are going to go up. For example, it's basically, we thought that the energy cap on October 1 was going to go up by something like 100. In fact, it's going to go up by 80% from the almost more or less 2,000 up to £3,500. That is unbelievable for a poor company, poor family. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have another bloody thing on January, where it's going to go up to 4,242,000. Okay.
Yeah.
And one of this, there's a thing called the Cornwall Consultants, which is the consultants that the government consults unwisely, in my view, but never mind. They reckon it could go up to £6,000. £6,000. If you divide that by 12, you mean that all families are going to have a tariff of 500 quid. If you are poor, how are you going to get 500 quid? That's more than half your budget.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, now we're talking to people out there. Tell me this, Stuart, because one of the papers this morning says that if she puts a cap, it would stop that amount at 2,000. Now, I do the same as you. I'm divided by 12, and we're still talking about not far off £200 or about £180 per family per head. Now, I was paying 45 a month or 2 months ago. So if that's going to go up to 185, that's a real hole. Good morning, Sally.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. A lovely Sally who is always beaming when we come in. She always makes sure that we feel welcome. It's absolutely terrific. I love coming into this place. This is the best office that I've ever come into, believe me.
It's a studio. It's a studio, Stanley.
Well, it's a little bit of everything. Right, okay. So £180 that's still an awful lot of money in a budget, particularly for people on very low income.
Yeah.
What's your reaction to that?
Well, my reaction to that is that you should have, I can't have a react to that. It's going to happen. Well, I'm one of the only person whose bill's gone down because I could afford to. I set my own EDF. I set my own thing at 250 because I knew what was coming. Okay, so anyway, time goes by and the smart meters that are installed are not very reliable. They don't.
Never had much faith in them myself. Yeah,
quite. And they actually tell lies. So anyway, I looked at my smart meter and I said, look, it's 523 for the first 6 months. Okay. Then recently I got a bill for 641 from period March to June. And I said, you owe me money. And they said, what do you mean? I said, look, the smart meter says it's 523 for 523
right.
for 6 months. So you owe me money. So they said, all right, we'll give you £100. Then I looked at it again and again. And I thought, well, before that, what about the previous 6 months? What about the previous 3 months? And I said, right, you owe me more money. And they said, oh, do we? Yeah. I said, yes. You wouldn't like me to actually go to the ombudsman. I have a bit of clout there, you know. And no, we don't want that. And I said, okay, right then. What's my bill going to be? Oh, you owe me 250,000. Right. So it's £350 back, right?
Right.
And that was rather nice. I just wish I'd asked for interest on it.
Oh, you dreamer. Yes. I mean, the energy companies are like the finance companies, is they grasp at everything. I mean, this business about you were late with your payment, we're going to charge you 12 quid. Well, you know, I am keeping a very close eye on anybody I have anything to do with, because if they miss as 1 minute I am sending in an invoice for 12 quid. And what I do is, where I've got a standing order, is I knock 12 quid off. Yeah. I mean, the howls of outrage. Oh, gosh, we made £8 billion profit last year. And what do we do?
My balance.
We charged you 12 quid.
Think about my balance. You're hurting in my ear. It's almost coming out the
Oh,
other side.
dear. We'll actually get this expanded so you can sit a little bit aside from me. Right. Okay. Well, let's just take here. What's your reaction to this? The Daily Mirror, right? For 12 years, Conservative prime ministers have wrecked the economy, trashed our public services, left millions worse off, and now we've got yet another one. Same old Tories. Now, that upsets me a wee bit, that it doesn't matter what your political view is, but, we haven't had bad governance from anybody over the last little while. And for the Mirror to sound off like that is just, in my, that is disgraceful as a newspaper. And yet the Mirror at one time was a really great newspaper. It was one of the great newspapers.
A long time ago.
Yeah, well, it is, but nonetheless. So what is your response to that sort of
my response
headline?
is, you're like another one of those Tory backwoodsmen. You think the Tories are wonderful. I think they're bloody horrible. I mean, they're terrible people. Look how greedy they are. I mean, what they're doing. How are they helping the poor if they're paying them from money that they get from the taxpayer? It's like Peter trying to rob Paul. They get money from the Palestinians to give to the energy companies. They squander it by actually paying themselves fortunes. What's good about that? Is that Tory policy? Is that
okay, but on the other side, I would say, is from anything that the Labour Party has said, or from their acolytes, the unions, have you heard anything different to think that things would change if we changed government?
Well, I think things have changed. First of all, you got rid of Corbyn, which is a rather good thing, because their policies were absolutely impossible.
Yeah. What about this deputy lady? Forgotten her name.
Angela Rayner.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's rather attractive, isn't
she? she's the one that somebody accused of opening her legs during the debate. Put off the opposition.
Why so? And who complained about that? Well, have you seen the actual profile of the Conservative Party? Usually white people in the age of 50-something or else. They prefer cricket to football as a national sport. They don't really like what they call darkies being in charge, right?
I think you just said about the Daily Mirror. I think that's somewhat outdated view. I mean, to be quite honest with you, this so-called variables or variety, what do we actually call it in our society now? But what it means is a mixture, is reflected to some extent by both parties. Now you do have black MPs, you have black cabinet ministers. I mean, in fact, Rishi Sunak, hardly an Anglo-Saxon name, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant name for a chancellor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the times have changed, Stuart. What I understand is that the philosophies of the Conservatives, as opposed to Labour, are different. Yeah.
Would you believe this? Centrica seeks billions in additional finance. I can't believe.
What's this?
Centrica owns British Gas.
Right.
They're seeking billions in additional finance.
Okay. Remember who you're talking to, right? Now, you've just seen this headline, this story. Give us the guts of the story.
Well, Centrica is the owner of British Gas.
Right. Okay.
British Gas.
A lot of people out there wouldn't know that. So Centrica owns British Gas Plus. Yeah. Plus what?
Well,
what else is
its own business, Centrica, which is about storage and all kinds of things.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So what? This company, British Gas, made £1.3 billion profit in the first 6 months of this year. Right.
Yeah.
And yet they're seeking billions in additional financing as collateral demands.
Right. They're seeking from whom?
Who do you think?
Well, you tell us.
The public.
Right. From the government. They're asking for subsidies.
Yes.
Right. So from you and I and a lot of the other people that are watching this morning, they want to dip into our pockets.
Yes.
Even though they made one of their subsidiaries made 1.2 billion profit. 1.3 million profit in what, the first 3 months of the year?
6 months.
First 6 months of the year. That seems to me, Stuart, since Lloyd's Bank made 8 billion last year, that doesn't seem quite excessive to me in the scale of things.
What? 8 billion is a lot of money.
Yes, it is. But what I'm saying is 8 billion for the banks, 1.3 for the energy companies. Is surely they're making more than that.
What do you mean? Well, of course they are, because they weren't actually nationalised effectively. What we had to pay them out, didn't we?
Yeah.
Lloyd's Bank, in fact, was nationalised.
Yeah, but statistically, what I'm saying is 1.3 billion seems to pale into insignificance against 8 billion. You know, where are the giants? Where are the people that are actually feeding off us?
Well, where do you want to go? BP, 6.9 million.
Right. Yeah.
Shell.
Yeah.
Well, all the energy,
so huge.
all the energy producers and the energy suppliers are actually paying themselves a lot of money at the cost of the consumer.
Okay, now that's a different thing. What they pay their chief executive is different to the amount of profit they make, is it not? So let's.
Where do you think the payments come from?
Well, okay,
they come from profits.
Yes, okay.
This is profiteering.
Yes, okay. But if I was a board member and I made 8 billion profit, I am in the position of saying what we'll do is we'll reinvest that 8 billion, or we'll give it back to our. It is at that point that the decision is made to pay the chief executive 2 million or 3 million. That, I agree, is obscene. What I'm trying to get out of you is where is the level of profit at the moment? Is that really obscene, or is it very typical of almost all our top companies?
Well, in terms of energy, for example, you've got to think about the oil price. Now, the oil price basically is determined by two things. One is
remember who you're talking to.
Two things is actually, one is Russia, and two is the OPEC cartel, right?
Right.
And they more or less determine what the oil prices can be, depending on supply and demand. And because, you know, we can't rely on gas and in America and so forth anymore, we have to have oil. So the oil price has gone up quite exponentially in the past 18 months. It did go for, well, let me tell you another story. Back in the day when I was in the oil business, the oil price was $23 a barrel, right?
Yeah.
And I started this business in 2005.
Right.
By 2008, the oil price has gone up to $147
a barrel. Yes, I remember that.
And I made a great deal of money, thank you very much. But I'm not basically a capitalist. So I was very, very nervous about doing this.
So all the money you made, you gave away?
Yes.
You're a brave man. You're a brave man. Okay, Stuart. You know, your knowledge is great. It's just that people who tune in, and actually one of our good critics, positive critics, pointed out that sometimes they actually click in and they're not absolutely sure what the hell we're talking about because they come in part way through. So that's why I've got you to explain what we're talking about this morning. But essentially, it's the item in the Mirror that's triggered this is the same old Tories, and that they've always been pocketing huge amounts of money from companies that are making huge profits, and who is paying for it but us. I mean, I do remember quite clearly that Lloyd's in 2008 were begging the government, in other words, with our money, to bail them out of substantial trouble. Am I right?
Yes.
And now they've made 8 billion profit. Are they grateful? No.
Well, you know, the banks rip you off, don't they? I mean,
absolutely.
You mean the interest rates? They put them up left, right, and centre.
Yes.
You know, I mean, the banks. We
Morning, Ollie.
we effectively had to nationalise the banks.
Yes.
We did, because they were going in such dire circumstances. We had to no. In a way, you can say it's worked, because they're now back on their feet, because they've been charging us God knows how much.
Yes.
I mean, their prices are up, and I've just had a really big long spat with them about, you know, charges and so forth and so on. And they charge lots of money. And
They charge for everything. I mean, if you go into the bank and fart, it's 12 quid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
just
outrageous.
Do you know, nobody has actually ever successfully sued a bank.
You mentioned that in conversation the other day. I find that remarkable, but I can understand it, because amongst the establishment there is no sympathy for having a go at the banks, because everybody, you know, from the House of Lords on down, are scared silly of the financial institutions, because they have so much power. Yeah. They trip up, suddenly they're in trouble. Lend us some money. Give us some money, subsidize us. Okay, you know, there's no question. We go along and say, can we have 1,000 quid to get us through the next month? And we're met with a deafening silence.
Well, look at the credit card scam. Barclay card, for example, they got 26% bloody. It's 26% is what they charge.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yes, and that's the least of it, because there are always little things as well. You're a day late, that's another 12 quid. You use the wrong account, that's another 12 quid. I mean, by the time you've finished, unless you are absolutely meticulous in their terms, and what they'll say is, oh well, you know, we laid it out in a contract. Well, yeah, they may have done, but you know, who reads those sort of contracts thoroughly in the fine print?
There's other things like you're thinking, like in the energy companies, the difference between the wholesale cash which they buy it to the retail is quite enormous, because they, in the middle of that, they load on cost, like the standing charge.
Right.
Do you know what the standing charge is? Just so that you can have the smart meter and so forth and so on.
Yes.
Doesn't do anything, but you have to pay it.
Pay it. That's right.
So therefore, when the difference from the wholesale price almost comes up to the retail price.
Yeah. Well, it's like having a bank account. Apparently there is a charge for them managing it.
Yeah.
For God's sake, you know, them managing it that should be one of the things that they're offering and saying, look, do bank with us. Take out a current account or whatever, and we will look after the management of it. Not a bit of it.
What do they mean by managing? What do they do about it? Just use it to their own ends, don't they?
Exactly. It's so that they can punch a button and make it look as.
But this to go back, I think this thing is like the subprime scandal in America, where all the mortgage companies were given this money to give it to people who couldn't possibly pay off the mortgage.
Right.
And then they all went bust, didn't they?
Where are we in times? It's 14 minutes past 9. Let's just take a breather, because we've been talking some pretty heavy stuff. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I just lost us for a moment.
OPEC cuts. Agrees cuts.
Hang on. We were trying to do one thing, and gosh, there we go. I think that we're back. There we are. Yes, indeed.
Now, we were talking about oil, right?
Yeah.
Now, here it says OPEC agrees to cuts, right? Do you know
Yeah.
what that means?
Well,
They want to put the price of oil up. That's what it means. Cutting the demand.
they want to cut output.
No, they want to cut output. So
Yeah. So the
goes
price
up.
goes up.
Is what
Right.
Putin does.
Yeah.
Putin does that because he
Yeah.
dominates Western
Yeah.
Europe in terms of his gas.
But the Saudis have been doing that for years and years and years, have they not?
Well, yes, on and off. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, well, that's what's known as the market. This is what's known as capitalism, is the market,
Right.
And of course, it's it's rich that gets the pleasure, it's the poor that gets the blame.
Yes.
It's the same the whole world over. Ain't it all a bloody shame?
But you're not poor.
Well, yes, I am. I'm that poor Stuart.
He's poor old Stuart. I tell you, he's a natural Oliver, this one.
No. I was talking about when I was at the Sussex University 60th anniversary yesterday. I said, it's all. I think the class system is the worst scourge that any society should have. Because Sussex, when I first went there, was a new university.
Yes.
And it was all the middle class came there. And when I first went there, I felt like little orphan Annie with a nose up against the window pane, because there was all this middle class people sort of arranging to which clubs they're going to join and which parties they're going to go to. And I sort of felt totally left out, this poor little working class boy.
Let's just switch for a moment, because you are not a lot of people know, but you're a patron of the arts in Lewes. And the other evening there was a launch of a new Nita Patel. Peterson, sorry, yes, Nita Peterson at the old brewery, Star Brewery Gallery. Can you tell us just a little bit about that?
Well, the Star Brewery Gallery is an art gallery that fell bad times about 3 years ago, and I was in a position to actually give Nita Pearson some money to actually take over the lease. And Nita is a very, very accomplished artist in various aspects in terms of textiles and art.
Thanks, Sally.
And all kinds of things. And in the past 3 years, she has worked wonders with that gallery, showing shows of local artists and really getting a teeth into it. And as she says, some wonderful exhibitions. And recently, her great friend John May had a tree exhibition, which was very, very successful. Last Friday, we had the river show, which was to show the beauty of rivers, but also to bring people's attention to the absolute implications of the southern water dumping sewerage in the Ouse and dumping sewerage off Seaford Head. And this is an absolute crime. And the Tory parties, your wonderful Tory parties, is doing nothing to solve this problem.
It's not my wonderful Tory party. I am totally neutral. The only thing is, what I say is, I have no faith in any of them. All I say is, and I say to you quite often, is if you want to replace it with the Labour Party, what's different? Because I don't see any difference between the two of them. They are all motivated by the same thing: greed and power. That's all they're interested in. They're not interested in people. And politics, surely, by the very nature of it, says that you should be interested in people.
Well, I'm not sure I would totally agree with that.
Well, I don't expect you to, and I don't want you to.
But
I'm telling you what my viewpoint is, so don't call me a Tory. I am a neutral who try to observe things from a neutral standpoint, which is almost impossible, by the way, but nonetheless.
So you don't vote?
Oh, yes, I do.
Aha.
But I don't necessarily vote the same way every time.
Oh, right. Depends on what you had to drink that day, does it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what time of morning it is.
Right. So let me put it this. if it's the Conservatives, you have a nice glass of sherry in the morning, right? Sherry.
Yes.
If it's the Liberals, you might allow yourself a glass of really nice Sauvignon. If it's the Labour Party, you would have to have a glass of Guinness or beer, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Right.
All right, but let me put it this way, Stuart. I am not going to go around with my life apologising for the fact that I like a nice glass of wine. I like a glass of champagne. I actually like going to nice cocktail parties. I'm not going to apologise for it just because some group of people in what we call shamefully politics tells me that that's wrong. I mean, that's crazy. And by the same token, I don't ask them to support free meals in the House of Commons. But I don't notice particularly that any Labour MPs turn down their subsidised meals in the House of Commons.
And their expenses.
And their expenses. They don't turn them down, do they? And they could.
Do you remember that Quintin Hogg? No, it was the other one. His son, wasn't it? What was his name? Quintin Hogg, no.
Yeah, no, I remember.
What was his father?
Lord somebody.
Well, let's call him Quintin Hogg for a moment.
Yeah.
And he had a moat round his castle. He had a good moat built, didn't he, round his castle in Lincolnshire. They get away with more or less. You don't forget, local councillors get expensive.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they do quite well about it.
Oh, yes, they do. Yeah. I mean, most people say, oh, no, they do it for the love of it because they don't get a salary. Ha! I tell you, look, I've made my view clear. None of the above. I do not have any faith in any level of government. I do not believe that it's fit for purpose. I don't think that it addresses the problems that we have, and I don't think that it addresses the concerns of people and transfers them into policies that work.
Okay, so you don't like democracy. Why do you prefer dictatorship? Would you like Mr.
Well, actually, of course, you know what Plato said in his Politics is the very best form of government is a combination of a democracy, of oligarchy and the one-man rule. That's what he says, and actually, eventually, he comes to the conclusion that the best form of government is with what should we call it? Kingship, if you like, is oligarchy, which is the House of Lords, and democracy, which is the House of Commons. I mean, we've got it. The only thing is that what he didn't take account of was the fact that the quality of people that we get in these various spots is very, very poor. Very, very poor indeed. So therefore, it doesn't matter whether the system is good. If you haven't got the people that can actually operate successfully within it, what's the point?
Well, that's very interesting because when you think about it, do you remember the first Wilson government? They were a gallery of all the talents, weren't there? There was Dennis Healy, there was Roy Jenkins, there was who else was there? There was lots of very, very talented people.
Yes.
I know we don't seem to get those kind of cabinets anymore, do we?
No, we don't.
No.
We don't have. I mean, actually, British politics, the history of it is we have had some outstanding people. I don't see those people at all coming through. I see jaw, and then backed up by 650 people of so little talent and so little apparent ability to use their brains that the whole system is destroyed.
Well,
that's what's destroying the system.
That's a bit over the top. Most MPs actually are social workers, more or less.
Yeah, right.
Haunted social murderers. They want to get into probably a cabinet or whatever because that's where the money is. But in fact, social workers are very necessary, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
I mean, you look at our dear Norman Baker, who was a wonderful local constituency MP.
Absolutely agreed.
Really good. He cared about the community. He took everybody's cases up and so forth. But when he became a minister in the coalition, he more or less came to grief, didn't he?
Yes.
Because he couldn't get on with the actual minister. I think it was okay when he was in
Theresa May.
Transport, but when she put them in the Home Office, he couldn't.
Yeah.
But you see, I think really that democracy is much better than Well, the oligarchy is very difficult, and I don't really understand how we now get second-rate cabinets. And this is actually, which I said before, the shrewdest thing that what Boris did was make a cabinet of second-rate people.
Well, actually, he is very lucky to even have some people to appoint at second rate. Where I think the breakdown is that we have ceased to be a meritocracy. Is in any given constituency, they look to see whether there are the right number of women, and if there aren't, so we have a woman candidate. Now, I don't care whether the House of Commons is full, 650 women, as long as they are the best people that we can get. But at the moment, a large number of the women there are there because of ratio. Well, we haven't got enough women. Stuff one in.
No, hang on a second. You're overdoing it a bit there.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. What you've got to understand, at one stage, it went into positive discrimination, that the Labour must have somebody like a one-legged black lady with 3 illegitimate children should be able to stand, right? So they overdo it. They've overdone it. I believe in democracy. I believe in meritocracy, and I am a liberal. And I believe in opportunity. What's the word? Equality of opportunity.
Right.
And I also believe in free speech.
Yes. Well, I believe in all those things, but I'm just not tarred with being a conservative, Labour, or Liberal. I am an individual who mouths off. You're quite right. I'm understand why your eardrums are bursting. It seems sitting next to me, and I do. I'm the mouth that roars. But we don't have meritocracy. Meritocracy has hit the dust.
Well, we could do with a few more independents. For example, look at the town council, and you've got Mr. Catlin.
Yes, Stephen. Yeah,
it was a wonderful independent.
Yes, he is.
I mean, he's very.
But how many independents are there on the town council?
There's quite a lot, actually.
No, there aren't.
Aren't there? What
2.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Who's the other one?
I can't think who the other one is, but the rest belong to either the Greens, the Liberal Democrats, the Conservatives. They are all tarred with the party brush.
Well, actually, I think the Greens are just having their day, myself, basically. I mean, it's climate change is all the things. Everybody wants to be involved in it, although a lot of people don't understand it, what commissions are, and so forth and so on. I think that the Greens in this town, for example, are obvious because we're such a liberal green town, aren't we, really, if you think about it?
Well, I mean, we are odd, that's for sure. But the funny thing is that is a lot of people who think these things through, for whom I would value the opinion, is that the town, because it's tarred with the university brush, and a lot of people who dash up to London and so on, in other words, they don't live here most of the time, is liberal. But the district, which is where we elected a TV, an MP, is 100,000 people, is that much of it is rural. I mean, Stephen Catlin keeps pointing this out, is why the hell are we being run by Eastbourne, which doesn't understand the rural nature of Lewis District? And it's, the farming community and country community that tend to be conservative. As one of my old professors used to say, don't show me a farmer who is not conservative.
Well, exactly.
They feel very close to the earth.
There are the villages all around who vote out, and also Seaford. See a lot of old people there, a lot of Tories in there. And that's why Norman was basically very, very successful in outflanking them when he became.
Yes.
I mean, it was donkey's years, I mean, it was this place was conservative forever, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, it was.
You had that family which private I used to call Bufton Tufton, was it? Tufton Beamish.
Tufton Beamish.
Then there was Rathbone, Tim Rathbone.
In Rathbone.
He was another rah man, wasn't he, as well?
Well, I knew Tim quite well. I liked him, but I mean, that's beside the point.
What?
Well, sometimes, as I have never seen in person Maria Caulfield. right? We're journalists, right? We would expect that they would be knocking on the door and saying, this is what our policies are. Do they? Do they? Heck. I don't know who this woman is. I have no idea what she is. How do I support her without being able to look her in the eye and try to talk to her? Now, Norman Baker, I got to know very well. I don't share Norman's politics, but we still, to this day, have a drink and we talk. And we like to think that we're being sensible in our views. Tim Rathbone, I knew very well. Now, Tim Rathbone was the MP when I came in 1990, so I didn't know anyone before that. But I sat and talked to Rathbone, and I found him to be a fairly sensitive man with his own ideas of what he believed. I mean, he was two things. He was a great supporter of Europe, and secondly, he was a great supporter of anti-drug stuff. Right now, he tended to ignore a lot of the other things on the basis of those were his passions. But nonetheless, when you talk to the guy, and he was a thinker. So
do you happen to know that his appearances in the House of Commons was absolutely desperately poor?
It was the poorest of any MP. Yeah.
So he was too busy down here.
Well, actually, I think he was too busy in Europe, to be quite honest.
No, I think he was too busy with you social climbing all the time.
I didn't find him to be a social climber, strangely enough.
Well, no, you're the social climber. You're climbing up here.
I'm the social climber. I mean, I've been to 3 cocktail parties this week, and it's getting too much.
Oh,
3 cocktail parties in 2 days.
Poor old dear.
I wish. The only drink I've had is in here, and I had to pay for it myself.
3 cocktail parties. You've had to endure 3 cocktail parties. You poor thing. Sit down, have a rest.
Right. We are going to. We're going to now, instead of talking heads, we're going to take a little time out to see if we can. Oops. What on earth is wrong with these things? You see this. Well done, the energy companies. They're full of bright ideas to help their customers. Now they've made power so expensive that for an average house such as this, you can't afford to heat it. So you don't need appliances such as this. But that means you also don't need a fridge, because you can keep your groceries cool and fresh without it. The house is cold enough. Well done, chaps. All right, mate. It's always good when you. That was good fun this morning. That's terrific. Okay, so you're on deck tomorrow. Yeah. Possibly with your boy. Oh yeah, it was part of the crisis of 2008. Yeah, and when it all went belly up, they were getting. They were getting some. Yeah, oh, absolutely. They were. Hang on. Right. there we go. Where are we? We should be there. Goodness gracious me! I know what we're doing is we're clogging up the works. There we are. Sorry. Now Stuart is on the way, and just as he was going out, we were talking about subprime mortgages, which where the banks very quickly lent money to people to have mortgages who they knew very well couldn't pay them back, and then when the thing went belly up, they went to seek compensation for themselves for the money they'd lost from the government. And I think that was around 2008, Stuart, if I'm not mistaken.
It was under Bush, wasn't it? Was it Bush?
Yes, yes, I think that's right. That's right.
Yeah, sounds like Bush's time.
Actually, policy on the hoof. Okay. Now, I'm all to see because seeing Stuart is a very nice thing, but it then always throws me because I'm not quite sure where I am with our spirited debate, with the difference that we have in our views on things. But that's great because what we don't want is we don't want any yes people in this. We don't want any yes people in this operation, right? We're all individuals of our own thoughts.
Can you pay for the coffee first for me?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
Okay, here we go. Looking for a few things that we might well think about showing you. Except I found them just before we went onto the air, and now, of course, can I find them? No, I cannot. It's all a bit of a worry. It's when we fiddle around like this. But let's see what we have. I'll tell you one thing that we haven't done recently is just for a couple of minutes is let's take a look at Lewis from the air. once again, we have a problem here. Let's see. We can open that, and we should be able to stop it.
One of my favourite things is sitting outside.
One of my favourite things is let's hold it for a minute, because one of the things that where are we? Right. One of the things that we did in the past was we got up very early to see who else was getting up as early as we are, and around town. And one of the great characters, and he's still there, and he's still getting up early, and he's still doing his job, is Andy, the window cleaner, who just knows everybody and has got a wonderful look on his face, and he's very friendly, and he's a very nice guy. We actually did a little interview with Andy, and discovered what it was that motivated him to get up in the morning. And I think that this is the interview. So let's hope that it is. And I'm going to play it to you. Here we go. Here's Andy.
Now that we can, in a pub, and talking to those people who get the day going, and who have I been meeting for years and years and years, is but Andy, a terrific character that everybody knows. Andy, how long have you been doing this?
Approximately 28 years.
28 years?
Yeah.
So you've seen some changes here.
Yeah, certainly, yes. Certainly, yeah. From the
What was it like 28 years ago?
So I can't honestly remember, Keith. I'm at that age now where the memories go. It was, certainly different and certainly busier.
Tell me, what's it like? Because you and I used to have a race to get to the high street first.
Oh, yes, yeah.
6 o'clock in the morning, yeah. We used to have a wager on it. But tell me, in those days it was empty, but times have changed. What is it like at 7 o'clock in the morning here in the middle?
7 o'clock now is more like it used to be at maybe 5:30, 6 o'clock. There's nobody about. I don't find anybody. Even up to 9 o'clock, the town's still quite quiet. And obviously, since the lockdown and the shops reopening, it's sort of 10 o'clock in the morning before the shops are opening. So it's a lot quieter than I've ever known it, really.
But you put in a fair old day. I mean, you're here early and you finish late.
Yeah, I do, Keith. I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of people think I don't, but I do. Yeah.
You clean windows for the businesses, and I must say, one hell of a job you do too. They all look sparkling. But as they drift in, who are the first people to get to their shops? And we always think of shops opening at 9, but there must be a lot of people that get there well ahead of you.
Yeah, certainly. You've got Sharon at Bedworth's and Lucy. They're there quite often, certainly by 8 o'clock in the mornings now, getting their shop ready for opening at 9. I see them if I'm working this top of town. Obviously, the girls going to the working cafe Nero again. Yeah, again, Keith, it's not like it was. I'd really be racking my brains to say at 7 o'clock if I see anybody, really.
What did you do through lockdown?
I've done a lot of gardening, a lot of walking, lots of shopping, lots of housework. So I've had one happy life.
Oh, right then.
And that's so that's still good too.
Is she glad to get you out through the front door?
No, my wife works longer hours than me, so she goes out the door with me at about 6 o'clock every morning now. And she won't get home till about 6 in the evening, so I'm generally home. So I'll do the shopping probably on the way home today.
Now, over the years, you must have peered in through a window and seen a few things and thought, oh my goodness me, I better move on. Anything that sticks out in your mind?
When not so much doing the shops, but certainly when I was younger and I used to do the house windows, I saw quite a few things where you had to pretend you hadn't seen, and when they answered the door, you said, "Oh, sorry," but it's quite embarrassing for them and me.
It's always nice to know that the window cleaner has got a zip on his mouth.
There's certainly some signs.
Not that I would do anything wrong. But,
no, exactly.
So, what does the future hold, Andy?
I don't know for me, Keith, really. I mean, I'm looking at it now, my work just gets less and less, but I love what I do, and I love coming into the town, even though I don't live in the town. I love to work here. But really, the work's getting less and less, so I maybe have to do it on a part-time basis and get another outlet somewhere else. So So.
Well, people certainly enjoy you. I mean, you're a breath of fresh air first thing in the
Thank
morning.
you. Thank you.
Do you find that everybody quips with you, or some people are a bit grumpy?
No, certainly not. No, I can't think of anybody who's off with me in the morning or whatever time of day. Most people are quite cheerful, and I think they like it that I'm cheerful, so it helps them. So I hope it does.
One thing that I always admire you for a lot of things, I may say, because I think that not a lot of people can do your job. But one of the things that I admired was some of the big boys moved in.
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
And you saw them off.
No, unfortunately, I did at first, but unfortunately, like the restaurants, they've gone now, Prezzo. I used to clean Prezzo, Pizza Express and Ask, but they all went national company overnight on me, so I lost them, and they were all like 2.5-hour jobs, so I lost a day's work overnight with them. To be honest, I lost them probably about 5 years ago.
But
that
some
was quite
of
a
those
dent in my income.
Yeah, I mean, you're such a favourite. You stay with all the favourites, I think.
Oh, certainly, yeah. I mean, the independents and some of the national companies.
So big business, stay away. We don't want you. Andy, it's always a pleasure to see you.
Yeah, and you, Kev.
And we like to talk to people who start off early in the day and find out what it's like in this, because as you say, at the moment it's quiet.
Oh, certainly.
But who knows what the future holds.
Let's hope it turns out for the best for us all. If anybody commercial wants a window cleaner shops, restaurants, offices or pubs, I'm certainly there to help you.
Okay, and that's Andy, and you can get in touch with him through Mirador Television. We'll pass any messages where you want him along, because not only does he do an excellent job, but he's bloody good company as well.
Cheers, Keith.
Andy, lovely to see you.
Well, there we are, Andy, and you can see him on Lewis High Street most days, and particularly if you're an early bird like me, and you would see him first thing in the morning. Stop and have a chat to him. He's a very interesting bloke, very friendly. Now, we stopped looking at the papers when Stuart came in. So let's look at Trust plans to freeze energy bills until January. That's in the Eye. The Eye says she's drawing up plans with her likely Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, to lock households' gas and electricity bills at the current average of £1,971 until the end of January. That's still a bloody lot of money. The paper here, the energy lock is expected to be universal and benefit all homes. What do you mean benefit? It's still a huge hike. When are they going to realize that in the establishment? Which paper is that? The Eye. It should. I'm eating a bit of chocolate. Give me energy. The Eye should know better than to say that 2,000 quid a year is acceptable for energy bills. It's all relative. The Daily Telegraph, energy bills to be frozen until the next election. Same theme. The Sun, Liz puts her foot on the gas. The new PM to freeze energy bills. The Financial Times, which Stuart went through a moment ago, trusting the £100 billion energy plan. Stuart's point is a lot of that 100 billion is going to go towards the energy companies themselves, who are paying obscene amounts to their chief executives, 2 million here, 3 million there. Are they worth that? The Daily Star. Well, that was a bizarre 139-day fever dream, wasn't it? And what are they talking about? Well, his reign in power. And I think that's very unkind. I mean, the Star has always been the paper to represent the very left. One wouldn't expect it to support much of what's going on at the moment in the Conservative Party. But to say, as the Mirror has, that Boris didn't achieve anything is quite beyond the pale. Quite beyond the pale. We are supposed to say things like that. not the major press. Okay. Let's go back to me. Right, that completes the range of newspapers this morning. Nearly all of them are on the energy freeze. Nearly all of them are one way or another saying, hey, hang on, we've got to see whether her suggestions, if made, because they're all speculation, if she makes them, are going to work. But all of them agree that what she said is she is going to act in haste. Let's hope that acting in haste is not going to see a repent at leisure. Where are we now? 9:54. Heading up towards the 10 o'clock mark. And many things that we are trying to do this morning, we're not really getting very far with any of them. Let's remind you who we are. You? I'm a very accomplished flyer now, but way back in the 60s, when commercial jets still were being tested on commercial flights, then getting on board an aircraft was something of a trauma. We sat there hoping like hell the pilot knew what he was doing, and that he would get us down at the other end. And of course the pilots didn't know what they were doing, and they did get us down at the other end. But then again, air crashes became front page news, and it seemed always there was a crash just before I was supposed to fly. And so I wasn't the best flyer. Then one morning, somebody at the station, radio station I was working at, said,
Oh, someone's got to go up in a light aircraft and do traffic reports. Ha ha ha, I said, they're not getting me into that. Guess who they came knocking on the door to? Hayes, you go out, you do the traffic reports. Well, I had no choice. I couldn't say no. I had to do it. So indeed, I did. And away I went each morning, getting up at about 4:30, driving out to the airport and getting there about 5 o'clock, marching over to the far side of the airfield and getting into a Cessna 172, taking off, soaring above the city and passing on information about what was happening in the traffic. Wow. It took me 2 or 3 days to get used to the fact that this is what I was going to do twice a day. But then eventually I began to calm down and began to quite enjoy it. I enjoyed it so much, in fact, that I fell asleep one morning. I dozed, and the pilot said, "I think your station is calling you." And I heard the magic words, and now we're going up above the city, above the traffic, to see what was happening on the roads. So I opened my eyes, looked down, and immediately began to give a report. And the report was that there was a big jam of buses near the Oak Street Bridge, which went over the Fraser River. Wow! what a report. And then as we turned the aircraft and flew away, I realized that this was the bus terminal. I had just said that there were traffic jams of buses, and I'd been looking down at where the buses congregated before they set out on their morning routes. It's nothing like a great report. The pilot turned to me and he said, "You know, you've got this job licked. It's a bit boring, isn't it?" And I said, "Well, yeah, it is really. No, I mean, not much to say other than what's going on in the traffic. I try to brighten it up a little bit with a little quip here and there, but..." Right, tomorrow morning, he said, "You get in the left-hand seat and I'll teach you to fly." And he did. And I was fortunate to have almost a year and a half of a flying experience. I logged 400 hours on the Cessna. I logged a couple of hours on a twin-engine aircraft and a couple of hours on other aircraft. I was the luckiest man in the world. And he put me into some pretty awful conditions. And we would fly up, I would give a report, and then we would do some what's known touch and goes. In other words, you land, you circle, just to get some practice in. And we did, and one morning a gust of wind took it, and I thought that the wing was going to be ripped off. Well, he grabbed the stick and managed to get us out of trouble, but it just shows the sort of thing that if you're going to be a professional pilot, that you have to put up with. So confident did we become on flying around together that he would set little tests, and he would say, "There are clouds on the North Shore over the mountains. Why don't we go over and see if we can break the wings of this aircraft?" Yes, let's do that. And we would deliberately fly into this mucky weather and get churned around and watch the wings, knowing full well that they wouldn't fall off. But daring. And it did turn out to be a lot of fun. I have to say, it turned out to be a lot of fun. A couple of other incidents. I used to take VIPs up in the afternoon and say, "Okay, here are some pollution issues," and so on and so forth. And one afternoon we got my good friend, but also a colleague, Mrs. Grace McCarthy, who was the Deputy Prime Minister at the time. And we got out onto the runway and away we went. And a jet had taken off just before us, and it was a fairly still evening. So you can't see them, but the whirls of air, of course, by the jet's wings are still there. And sure enough, we got 3 or 4 feet from the ground, and away it went. We damn near lost the cabinet minister. The Deputy Prime Minister. Once again, he came to the rescue, flipped it over, and we managed to save the day. The other item that I think was worth reporting is that we flew backwards. have you ever flown backwards? He said. And this young chap was about 21 or 22. He was a nice young fellow. We bought him a helmet and nicknamed him the Red Baron. And he was to die in tragic circumstances in a plane crash later on. But he was a nice young man and very helpful and lots of fun. And so we went, and he said, we need a marker. And the plane travels forward at about 100 miles or so an hour. Actually, it's a little over 72 miles for takeoff speed. And he said that the wind this morning is particularly strong. So he put the nose of the aircraft into the strong wind, and we watched the bridge below. And although we were keeping airspeed, the plane started to travel backwards. So here we were in reverse, in a plane, in the sky, watching the bridge recede while the plane powered forward at the correct speed and the wind pushed us back. And that's the sort of nonsense that we would get up to. And there are lots of other stories I can tell you about my flying experience. But perhaps this last one will bring something of a smile to your lips. I was trying very hard to impress who later became my wife, my girlfriend at the time, Valerie, and I said, would you like to come flying, dear, and come out with me this afternoon, and we can go and we'll go and do some traffic reports, but we'll also take a look at the Vancouver from the air. How lovely. Yes, she said, that'd be super. Anyway, we got settled into the plane, I taxied out, checked with the tower, yes, we're all okay, we were about to take off, there's nothing in our way, rolled it out onto the runway and roared down the runway ready to take off, and the tower came on and said, MLA, is the call letters of the aircraft, you're going down the runway the wrong way. Oh my goodness me. We had to switch to a halt and take off the right way. She still married me. Well, that's my flying experience. I suppose I should fly off now. Till the next story, the next tall tale. Tiddle-bit.
My experience as a pilot, and I really was very lucky to log over 400 hours. If you were paying for it yourself, would have been thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds. And I did it because I was working. It's funny how things you don't want to do, because I remember when it was announced that the station was going to start doing traffic reports from a small plane flying over the city. I was the first to say, I'm not getting me up there. Guess who ended up performing that duty? Yeah, it was me. It was me. It is now 10:06. I have, without a great deal of success, been trying to get hold of Suzanne. Most of it is because of this ridiculous obsession that everybody seems to have with passwords. I haven't been asked for a password for my Hotmail account for months and months and months, years and years and years, in fact. And suddenly, in the middle of one of these programs, I want to actually get my password going. And what happens? Your password isn't valid. I didn't even know I needed a password. I got so used to tapping in. Oh, suddenly I've got to have a password. Absolutely ludicrous. Ridiculous. But there we are. But then, to regain my password, they made it almost impossible. We'll send you a code. God only knows where the code goes to. It sure as hell doesn't come up anywhere that I can find. It's a rubbish. It's a nonsense. And I really think that it's time for somebody somewhere to squash this. Government legislation that says one password covers all. Oh, I know there are people that offer that. But how it works, I have no idea. And I'm always afraid of trying some of these new things because some of them could be a scam. I'm just about to hand over all my details to somebody I don't know. How do I make sure it's genuine? I don't know. That's the point. There are still a huge number of people who are not that computer savvy. And do the companies that operate these things care? No. Do they follow the KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid? No, they do not. As a consequence, I now resent Microsoft, and I resent Google, and I resent Facebook. They keep on asking me at every turn for a password, and it's not on. They really need to do something about this very irritating obsession that they have with passwords. Perhaps what we should do is say, give us a service, and if we want to protect it with a password, we will. But give us the option. Don't force it on us. Because what you're doing is you're getting a whole generation of customers who are looking for alternatives. Don't bellyache if your audiences start to drop, if your subscribers are less than you anticipate, because you are not helping yourself. You are not endearing yourself to customers like me, of which there must be many, many thousands, if not millions. Get with it, chaps. Just get with it, will you? Ha ha. No. Yes. Let's just look at the insides, because we always concentrate on the pages and so on. What's exercising people? Booze as the Sussexes start their mini royal tour. Aha! The Duke and Duchess of Sussex ran a gauntlet of booze as they arrived at the first public engagement of their pseudo-royal tour. Harry and Meghan were met by demonstrators as they pulled up at Manchester's Bridgewater Hall, despite using a decoy car and entering through a back door. In the building, where Meghan would later give a keynote address at the One Young World Summit for Young Leaders, the welcome was warm. But minutes earlier, as the couple climbed out of their car, many in a 100-strong crowd booed from behind a barrier just yards away. Well, it doesn't matter to me the rights and wrongs of their argument with the, we'll alter the camera a little bit, with the family or with the establishment and so on. What does matter is how they deport themselves personally. And there's nothing like people who are whinging about how hard they're done by. Oh, I married into a family that is probably the wealthiest in the world. And they treated me. You knew what you were doing, dear. Stop whinging and stop doing it publicly. Get with it. Grow up. This is life. We all have to face things like this. And we all do. And one way or another, we fight our way through without publicly whinging the way that you have. And that's the most upsetting thing. the other thing is that it's patently obvious that Harry goes along with his wife when she goes, nah, 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 and then he reflects what patently is a twisting of the facts. And coming from Harry, that's disappointing. We've always looked at the young princes, felt sorry for them, grieved with them because of the loss of their mother. But Harry is behaving in the most peculiar way. And it's time that they stopped. Meghan is a creature of her background. She's used to dealing the way that Hollywood deals. We're not. Much as we are so enthralled to celebrity, or almost as enthralled as the Americans, we treat it in a very different way. Our way is not the American way, and nor should it be. One does not have to follow the other. The unfortunate thing and the unhappy thing is that when she actually starts crying the blues because of it's different to what she's used to, and that's basically what it's all about. They're treating me badly. Yeah. Well, we don't actually bow down and worship you, darling, the way that many in Hollywood City, Film City, Celluloid City, whatever they call it now, do. You may be magic in America, but you're not magic here. Get used to it. Live with it. And we would all then respect you. And that's really what you would, well, you're not asking for it because you don't understand that from the Hollywood background. But we are quite willing to offer our respect if you behave in a gracious and understanding and compassionate way. But you don't. You don't. You run to the nearest gossip columnist and spill all as you see it, or as the things that you actually want the world to know. And since you're the editor of these things, it is very selective indeed. So I'm sorry, I'm not full of sympathy with you. Not at all, at all, at all. All right, let's just head off now to our safety, a little visit tour to the what we call our Potter's Wheel, Grange Gardens. One of the things that we used to do, and this has got to stop for a moment, one of the things that we used to do was to do our travelogue via miniature railways. And here's an example when we examined New Zealand. I hope you enjoy it. It is a different way. And it's one that I would like to have a return to. Mirador Television now relies much more on live stuff because we are here on a daily basis in the White Hart Hotel and we actually bring in live people. Just actually, it's just a minor hiccup with a password as to why we haven't got our guests in the studio this morning. Tomorrow, Stuart Dolby has got a guest who has very much to do with Alzheimer's, and I'm sure will be a very interesting person to give us the background on what's being done, how it's being handled, and how it's viewed now in modern society. On top of that, on Thursday, Max Hurd is joined by Liza Page, who has got specific views on a variety of things. So we try to get the mix and the match as much as we possibly can, backed up by some programs which are some in the moment in the making. But we now got Sarah Fitch Hayes' art program. That's in the can, being edited. Max is going to the gym on a fairly regular basis, so we can bring you what I call a health program. And we have one or two more things that are being developed for you to surround the people that we can bring in live and intend to and will do. But we also like looking back at the past. So let's look back at one of our travelogues is looking at New Zealand through the means of model railways. Here we go. Well, there you are, a little look at New Zealand, and it's a different way of looking at things, and we're very different on this television station. We don't do anything in the normal way. Now, just looking at we've looked at the papers, front pages, but of course they are 8 or 10 hours old. Now, I'm not a great believer in first of the news. It's whether you're accurate and full with your news coverage, if that's what you set out to be. So whether in fact we stay up to date with the news headlines as they happen is quite beyond a little bit of chocolate just to keep me going. A booster. It's quite beyond whether that worries me or not. But just looking at an update now, Boris calls himself a booster rocket in his final speech as Prime Minister. He compares himself to a Roman statesman famed for his devotion to the Republic in a time of crisis, as he gave his final speech outside Downing Street. He said, "This is it, folks." And he vowed to get behind Liz Truss every step of the way, and told the Conservative Party that it is time to get behind the new Prime Minister. They are flying to see the Queen as we speak, for him to hand in his resignation and for her to accept Liz Truss as the new leader. Boris championed his administration's achievements, highlighting Brexit, the vaccine rollout, and the response to the war in Ukraine. He blamed President Putin for spiraling energy costs and said he knows Ms. Truss and her government will do everything they can to get through this crisis. Hinting at what he plans to do next, Mr. Johnson said, "On the subject of bouncing around in future careers, let me say that I am now like one of those booster rockets that has fulfilled its function." Now, there's a hell of a lot of noise going on, but no, on the contrary, we love noise. And we can hear gigging and so on. So what I can tell you is what happens at about 10:30 in the morning in a hotel is that, first of all, they stock the bar, empty the stale beer in the barrels, get ready for 11 o'clock when it is Keith's wine time. Absolutely.
Sure it's not Michael Betty.
And actually, behind the bar at the moment is the Beauty and the Beast.
What do you mean you don't remember that? Michael Bentley's.
Come and tell us what you're doing. Come on.
I've got loads to do.
Well, come and tell us quickly what you're up to.
I'm stocking the bar.
Go on then.
Come on.
I don't feel very well today.
We'll get away from me then.
Well, one of you come and tell us, because otherwise we'll think that you're actually skiving and you're not really there and you're at home.
Just give me a minute.
2 seconds.
Give me a second, they say. And that's because there is so much booze in the bar, it's taking them hours to get it from point A to point B.
There's about 200 people here.
200 people here in the hotel?
Yeah.
Well, there you are, you see. There we've got a little bit of information out of them. There are 200 people in the hotel. and this is the White Hart Hotel in Lewes. For those people who don't know us, are just joining us, or that tap in and out, and that's a pretty fair number of people. Is that usual for this time of year, time of week?
No, sir, there's a funeral today,
Ah,
unfortunately.
it's a big funeral.
Yeah, that's Foster's.
I mean, 200 people for a funeral is quite a lot.
Mm.
Is it a big funeral? Somebody we should know?
He had a nickname, Rusty. Rusty.
Rusty.
Bonfire man.
Ah, well, that would account.
Yes.
Yeah. So is the wake being held here?
Yes.
At what time?
3 p.m.
All right, come on, come quickly and tell us. Yeah. Right. Okay. Now, this is Sharon.
Hello.
Come on in.
I'm sweet.
All right, the two of you.
Oh,
Now-
I'm Kevin.
Now, these two people are the backbone of the hotel at this hour of the morning, right?
I wouldn't say the backbone.
What would you say?
A key member of the team.
Okay. God, he's so proper speak. Now let's call a spade a spade. They're the backbone. They are keeping at the moment everything moving because you've got a funeral for 200 people at 3:30 this afternoon, and you've got to be ready for it, right?
Got to be ready.
You've got
Yeah.
to be ready.
Yeah.
But it's not just us. There's,
No. Let's find out what you're doing. Yeah, keep it simple. I don't want to know. I don't want to know about the cast of thousands. I want to know what you two are doing. Absolutely.
We're
Stocking the bar.
stuck in the
ready.
bar.
Yeah, you
cleaning
see.
the
Oh,
Testing
look at
the
that! Look at that! Wonderful.
Making sure it tastes okay.
Now, at this hour of the morning, what would you normally be doing?
Sat behind the desk answering emails.
So this is a bit of a because you've got an important occasion on,
We're leaving the emails and we'll.
and you're coming in to actually stock the bar.
Yes.
Right. Now, have you brought in special amounts of booze for this, or are you just moving around the stuff that you normally got?
No, we've had to buy in.
Harvey's.
Yeah, we've had to buy in some more alcohol
Right.
to make sure we've got more than enough. So,
Right.
Yeah, I suppose we have to do it special order.
Right. So when actually these people arrive, you two will have worked for. Well, I know Shannon was here at 6:30 this morning.
6:30.
And I'll be long gone.
You'll be long gone.
Yes, I finished
So-
at 3.
So you're actually yeah.
But
Good
I'm
girl.
sta-
How about
I'm-
you, Kevin? When do you?
I'm staying on to help with the funeral, so
Right.
I've got to obviously go and get changed and freshen up and put some
Right.
appropriate clothing on.
So you've got hundreds of thousands coming in. Are they going to the back because this hotel
Yes.
does have
Yeah.
They've
go
got
to the back and the
conservatory and the
and-
restaurant
in the
area.
restaurant.
my chair in there, which is
Mhm.
sacrosanct, is nobody else is allowed to sit in it.
No,
It's-
no
it's
one will be
safe.
in your chair. No
They
one.
will not be in my
No,
chair.
no one will be in your chair.
There you
Wow.
are. You see, they're the guardians of my chair in this hotel. Yeah. Now, normally the hotel has a bar.
Yeah.
You do a little breakfast,
Mhm,
and you can buy a piece of cake,
mhm.
but you don't normally do catering.
No.
Today,
anymore.
you're catering a funeral.
Well, it's outside catering,
Right.
so they've arranged that themselves, and I don't know who it's with, but I'm sure it's going to be lovely.
Yeah. So the caterers will bring in the
Yes.
food and lay it out.
Yes,
Right.
all ready, and hopefully I get a plate before I leave.
Ha! There you are. You see, yeah.
Anyway.
It's tarry a little at 3:00.
Right, we best crack on.
Right, they've got to
Let's
crack
crack
on.
on.
But let me
Bye-bye.
tell you now that these two people are lovely, lovely people. I said to everybody, I love coming in here in the morning because they are friendly, beautiful, great smiles, and everybody looks after me. So I can't ask for more. So when I'm dead, I shall have my funeral here, knowing that you two will be stocking the bar.
We
Of
will.
course, of course.
And
See,
as,
just-
as Boris Johnson said this morning, I'd like to thank the cat and the dog.
Kevin and Shannon, great people at this hotel, and actually the people at this hotel are great people. It is a lovely, lovely hotel. And all credit to Sally and Cliff for the way that they select their staff. Jane, who is upstairs today, doing some of the administration, but sometimes looks after the floor down here. She's been with them for about 25 years, and she is lovely and welcoming. And when I come in the morning, everything is laid out for me. It's quite remarkable. Absolutely terrific. So there you are. That's what goes on in a small but important hotel out in small towns. They stock the bar, ready for a funeral at 3 o'clock, and getting the place ready to make sure that it's welcoming. Okay, now we'll go back to that's what Boris has said. It says Truss putting finishing touches on the plan to freeze energy prices and pay back differences over decades. It's a long-term plan. Who was Cincinnatus? And why did Johnson refer to him in his farewell speech? Well, why don't we find out? Boris Johnson, when he said goodbye this morning, did what quite often speakers do nowadays, is they make some reference to a person of history. And Boris has made a reference to a Roman dictator. Boris said he was giving his most fervent support to his successor, Liz Truss, but he compared himself to Cincinnatus, who battled against an invasion before returning to his farm. According to tradition, however, the Roman statesman later returned to serve a second term. Aha! So that's why Boris has fueled speculation about, excuse me, this happens at this hour of the morning. I don't know what it is. Always happens. Then it goes away. So he's fueled speculation about a possible return to frontline politics by making a reference to this Roman statesman. He compared himself to Cincinnatus, who was made dictator in 458 BC to lead the battle against an invasion before returning to his farm. In doing so, he became famous for resisting the temptation to hang on to power or meddle in politics. According to tradition, however, Cincinnatus later returned to serve a second term. On the subject of bouncing around in future careers, Boris said, "Let me say that I am now like one of those booster rockets that has fulfilled its function. I will now be gently re-entering the atmosphere and splashing down invisibly in some remote and obscure corner of the Pacific." But that's if he's going to be he allowed enough ambiguity in his departing speech to keep his future options open, and he couldn't resist reminding his party that they will find him a hard act to follow. That's for damn sure. We can go along with him on that. That's it, folks, he said, flanked by dozens of his MPs and staff, as he and wife Carrie left Downing Street. Jovial and never emotional, that's not his style. This was mostly a more good-humoured affair than his resignation speech in July, which was raw with bitterness about the manner in which he was forced from office. Don't blame him. Today, in his final hour, the outgoing Prime Minister was bullish and full of his characteristic bombast, at one point comparing himself to a booster rocket landing in the mid-Pacific. Okay, so that's Boris and his farewell. And as I say, they are on the way to Scotland at the moment, where they're going to see the Queen, and she will be given the nod to become the next prime minister. Just about all the Meghan's speech is part of the new news, as it were. A drink driver has crashed into a lorry, and that was caught on a video. Priti Patel has told Labour MPs to shut up. I'd love to have seen that. The COVID alert level is downgraded. What that means for the UK? The next generation COVID vaccine is set for the next COVID booster jab rollout. I'm getting mine this Saturday morning. The Conservative leadership, what have we learned? Analysis. More UK. A man shot dead by police after a car chase. A man uses his car to stop out of control vehicle with an ill driver on a busy motorway. Women were nearly twice as likely as men to break COVID lockdown rules. Oh, did you hear that, Shannon?
I did not.
Oh, women were nearly twice as likely as men to break COVID lockdown rules.
Never.
The threat of go-ahead bus disruption as company managers cyber security incident. So the buses are getting in on the act. Police given more time to question the 3 men arrested over the murder of Olivia Pratt-Corbell. That's the 9-year-old girl who was shot in about 2 weeks ago in Liverpool. More immigrants arrive in Dover, and I'm like a booster rocket we've just come across. Sir Cliff Richard announces first Christmas album since 2003. That doesn't fill me with a great deal of fun or whatever. Good for Cliff. He keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. Supermarkets that have put prices up most revealed ridiculous £20 pints warning, and the UK likely to suffer brownouts this winter with the cost of living latest. Travel delays and flooding likely as thunderstorm warning is declared. So those are the other things that are happening in the news. Putin has now lost 50,000 men in war. The nuclear plant is a step away from catastrophe, is the warning about the nuclear plant in Ukraine. Both sides have declared as not being a war zone, and then immediately it's attacked. Supermarkets that have put prices up, and Priti Patel to resign as Home Secretary after the honour of my life. Truss promises to deliver bold plan as she prepares to enter number 10. Man charged with the murder of 3 siblings in Dublin. Tuesday's national newspaper front pages we've gone through. Stalker obsessed with Emily Maitlis is jailed again after 20th attempt to break a restraining order, stopping him stalking her. And a man charged after the heiress allegedly kidnapped and forced into SUV while jogging. Oh my goodness me, it's all happening around the world. All happening around the world. So where are we now? Well, we're at 10:47. The morning has gone quite quickly. I'm sorry that we're not bringing you your favourites, but they are lurking. They're there, waiting for us to make sure that we get our act together, which we are indeed, and we're getting new programs for you. We're getting new personalities for you. We're able to have little chats in the hotel, and I mean, let's take a break for a moment. There we are. As we've got a little something here that. Oh dear, the file is not found. So I'm afraid we can't bring you that. So no sense in fooling around with it. But let's see what we can bring you. Now, here is. Here's a favourite.
Mickleham Priory is near Lewes. It was a former Augustine 13th century monastery. The main building has been preserved, but the church was pulled down by Henry VIII. The monks there had a reputation for naughtiness. Ghostly figures of monks are often seen walking the grounds. Stories of orgies and chasing the girls in the local village were legion. The priory became a private residence. One of its occupants was Sir Thomas Sackville, who lived there in the late 1500s. He was, by all accounts, a nasty bit of work. His ghost is said to bully the other spirits, as well as unsuspecting mortals. It must be true, I felt him kick me.
Mirador's food tip of the week. Hot buttered toast. Have we forgotten how wonderful, simple, hot buttered toast can be? Ingredients simple. Bread and butter. Hot buttered toast. Mirador's food tip of the week. Try it. Hi, welcome to Mirador Television. This is local TV, but probably not local TV as you know it. We don't have much cash, so for one thing, we have to do much of our stuff outside. We don't even have a studio. So we don't even have a weather presenter. But we will try to bring you the weather. So when you see me with an umbrella, it's raining. So when I have my walking stick, it's fine. If my hat blows off, it's windy. And if I'm wearing a bikini, it's hot. Not that you're going to see me in a bikini very often. The body's gone, you see. Not a pretty sight. But when it comes to mixed weather, well, we really have a problem. It's silly of us to serve up the same old rubbish that you can see on regular television, so we're serving up rubbish of our own. But I hope that it's nutty enough to bring you back to watch us again. Stick with us, Nutty TV. Now, what's what? What is a weekly look about the interesting things that happen in our town? Those of us who live here know about them, but to a visitor, they might find them very interesting. This is ancient Keir Street. It's said that in the early 1800s, the Prince Regent won a bet by driving a coach and four down it. The Norman Castle in Lewes, though small, is one of the oldest in the country. A wooden Saxon fort stood on the mound until 1080. Then William de Varenne, the first Lord of Lewes, built this stone bailey as his stronghold. A tiny castle for a tiny town. Famous celebrations of November the 5th. They're huge. Almost every one of the townsfolk takes part. He goes way back before the gunpowder plot to Queen Mary's burning of religious martyrs in the centre of the town in 1556. Free beer? Of course not. But this pub, the Brewers Arms, is one of several independently owned pubs in the town. At one time in the 1800s, Lewes had 63 pubs and 17 breweries, and just a population of 9,000, but no free beer.
Well, there are the Mirador cameras trying to keep a visual record of what goes on in the town. The famous Bluebell Railway, 11 miles of track carrying lovingly restored steam trains from Sheffield Park, just outside Lewes, to East Grinstead. The line opened in 1882. As the name suggests, the railway runs through wonderful bluebell woods, worth every puff. This is indeed a rare sight. Southern Rail was on strike so frequently, trains in motion were not often seen. This is the annual raft race down the River Ouse from Lewes to Newhaven. It's more than 40 years old. It raises funds for charity, and contestants build their own rafts and try to sink the opposition. Staying with water, this is a lovely spot in Lewes known as the Pells. It was given to the town in 1603. It's the oldest operating swimming water pool in Britain. Lewes has several charming and interesting cafes, despite the presence of dull, uninteresting chain cafes in the town. The ports boast the best breakfast, and it's certainly very, very good. I can attest to that. Then there's the Runaway. Despite attempts by the rapacious railway barons to shut it, this bistro has been on Lewes Station for more than 30 years. Famous for its bacon sandwiches, Princess Di once stopped by for one. My favourite spot, especially at 6 o'clock on a summer morning, is the Priory. The building started in 1084, just 18 years after the Norman invasion. The Priory withstood the Battle of Lewes in 1264 and raids from the French during the 100 Years' War, but fell to the vandalism of Thomas Cromwell in 1535, as Henry VIII dissolved the monasteries. This is the Crown Court. An assizes has been located in Lewes since early Norman times and has seen many famous trials. Finally, the stocks. Stocks have been used in Lewes for more than 9 centuries. Some say the punishment is still on the statute books. These are old stocks from around the country, but Lewes's stocks still sit in the grounds of the castle. Lots more interesting places in Lewes. If you live here, enjoy exploring. If you're a visitor, take a tour. We're rich in history. Oh, Jerry, what have you been up to?
Well, that's it for this Tuesday morning. Hope you've enjoyed being with us. We will be back tomorrow morning with Max and Stuart, crossing swords as usual over a whole host of issues, but more significantly, Stuart brings his expertise on energy, the energy costs, and what's likely to happen. So join us tomorrow. And for the moment, what we're going to do is we're going to say toodle pip. Hope you've been enjoying with us. We'll see you in the morn, as it were. Ta-da!